Okay, I'm going to get started this morning by welcoming all of you guys. Sawadee Kap. Welcome to Wat Tang Yu. Nice to see all of you guys here at the temple, and those of you guys joining us online, welcome to everyone. Today is the third day of a 5-day course that I'm teaching, and I know some of you guys might be here just for the morning because we have regular Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday classes, and that's fine. You're welcome to come and go as you please, but when we have these courses, I just allow the students to come into all the retreats and courses that we have. Everything that we do is available at no cost, and students that are coming in on Sunday and Wednesdays and Saturdays, we have regular classes that we do, but then when I'm teaching a particular course, you can just come in and join because you'll be able to learn meditation and learn anything else that you would like to learn while you're here. So welcome to all of you, whether you're joining us for the first time or you've been here for the course throughout the week. Welcome to everybody. You're welcome to stay as long as you like. We have a full course of teachings that we're going to be sharing. Today, we're going to be learning the 3 poisons or the 3 unwholesome roots or the 3 fires. This is where you're going to learn the 3 high-level challenges that the Buddha discovered in the mind. And then we're going to move into what's called the 5 precepts, which are 5 impactful decisions that you can either make wisely that produce wholesome results or unwisely and it produces unwholesome results for you. And then we're going to take an hour-and-a-half lunch. And then when we come back, I'm going to be teaching walking meditation. So if you're interested in learning how to do walking meditation, that's something that I'm going to be teaching this afternoon. And then even tomorrow we have classes starting at 9 a.m. where I'm going to be teaching various topics and doing meditation. And then on Friday we have a group tour where I'm going to be taking students out to a forest temple and a temple up on the mountain. Whether you're here today or tomorrow or not, you're always welcome to come for the tour. You and anybody that you encounter. If you're just here on Friday morning at 9 a.m., we're going to be doing meditation together and then heading out to a tour where it's basically like a classroom without walls, where you'll be able to learn the teachings of the Buddha through the architecture, the artwork, the symbolism at the temples. So that way, when you go to a temple, the temple will really speak to you. Right now, you might go into a temple and be like, oh, wow, that's pretty. Oh, wow, that's beautiful. Let me take a picture of that. But if you understand the artwork, the architecture, and the symbolism, the temple walls almost come to life and kind of speak to you because you'll understand these artists and architects who built these temples 500 to 1,000 years ago. They're communicating certain aspects of the teachings of the Buddha. And if you understand the symbolism, artwork, and architecture, when you look at the walls of the temple and the construction and the various symbols, it'll really speak to you and it'll mean something to you. So you're welcome to join the tour if you like on Friday. The way that we start our class is we start with chanting and meditation. We use the chanting as a way to ease the mind into meditation. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory. So every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would chant or recite his teachings word for word for word. Because everything that he taught was oral, nothing was written down during his life because the technology to write things down didn't exist in that region of the world. So they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory so that then understanding the teachings intellectually, they could then practice them and experience the results. So if you'd like to chant along with us or at least see the chants that we're doing, I have them on a laminated sheet over there on the table. You can receive that and look at that. There's the Pali language that we chant in because the Pali language is the original historic language that the teachings of the Buddha are captured in. And you'll see the English translations as well. There's nothing mystical or magical about these chants. It's not a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony or worship. It's not prayer or anything like that. As I mentioned, they were only used to commit the teachings to memory during the lifetime of the Buddha, but nowadays we use them to kind of ease the mind into meditation. Because we don't need chanting in order to commit the teachings to memory because we have books, we have videos, we have podcasts and audiobooks and all kinds of ways to capture the teachings. So I'm going to be chanting as a way to ease the mind into meditation, and you're welcome to join along. If you look at the English translations on these chants, you're going to see a lot of admiration and respect and gratitude for the Buddha. I suspect that the Buddha didn't actually even create these chants himself. They were probably created by his students either during his life or after his death, because a Buddha wouldn't go around and teach students to chant these kinds of things to him, because a Buddha would have eliminated their ego and their arrogance. They wouldn't say, here, chant these things to me and show me all this kind of respect that is shown in these teachings. But if you learn from a teacher who helped you to move from anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy, all these discontent feelings in others, if they helped you to get to this enlightened mental state where your mind is peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy, no longer experiencing any of these discontent feelings, and he didn't want anything from his students, you'd probably have a lot of respect and gratitude for that person too. So having experienced enlightenment, countless people in the world during the Buddha's lifetime and after his death experienced that mental state. And I suspect that they had a deep amount of gratitude and respect for him, and that's where these chants actually came from. After the chanting, I'm going to be guiding you in meditation where you'll hear me speaking, and actually we'll be meditating while I'm guiding you in the meditation. But then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're all just meditating together. Those of us here at the temple and everyone who's joining online will just all be meditating at the same time. And then after that, we'll come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And that's where you can join into the chanting, because some of you that have been here, you're actually learning the chanting. So it's really helpful to chant together. And the more that we harmonize together in the chanting, it sounds really beautiful. So if you would like to kind of chant along, even if you've never learned these chants at all, just kind of mouth them a little bit and you kind of get in the habit of chanting them a little bit. It'll help your mind to develop memory and concentration and clarity and ease your mind into meditation, getting awareness of breath and helping you to get more benefit out of your meditation. In terms of your body positioning for meditation, there's 4 different positions to meditate in because you can't permanently be in the same position all the time. So there's seated, lying, standing, and walking positions. And that's why I mentioned this afternoon, I'm going to be teaching walking meditation, which is very different than what we're doing this morning. But in the seated position, this is where oftentimes people are learning when they're first starting. Even though we have these other positions for other reasons, and they're used at different times, oftentimes when you're first learning, seated is the position that you might use. So if you're sitting on the floor or in a chair, this is all normal. For those of you guys at home, you might be on a bench or a sofa or a recliner or in a wheelchair or something like this. If you would like to sit, that works perfectly fine, but just know that there are other positions as well. Sitting on the floor, since most of you guys here on the floor, I'll give you a little bit of guidance, is usually you have a cushion under your rear and then you lightly cross your legs. If your legs are real tight, this will impede the circulation in the body. So you're not interested in being in pain during the meditation. So if you just have your legs lightly crossed, this is helpful. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This kind of lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, and this can help the circulation flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. And if this is comfortable for you, you could use it. But this practice isn't about everybody doing it exactly the same way. This isn't actually possible. So you do whatever is comfortable for you. Some people like to put their palms on the thighs or the knees or the palms up. Some people like to place their hands in their lap. Your lower body and hands and arms should be relaxed and comfortable. So you find whatever works best for you. And if you like to sit in a chair, sit in a chair. You can switch back and forth. And for those of you guys that are sitting in a chair or a sofa or a bench, sometimes people like to put their feet flat on the floor or cross at the ankles. But again, it's up to you. You can sit however you like. I'm sitting in a chair with my legs cross-legged, so you can do that too. It's whatever's comfortable for you. The upper body should be erect. This keeps the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, where you can actively train the mind during your meditation, because this isn't a time to just zone out and take a nap. It's a time to actively train your mind. So by having your upper body erect, it keeps the mind attentive and alert so that you can actively and purposefully train the mind. If you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind would be overactive or uptight. So by having the upper body in the middle where it's erect, not only does it keep your mind attentive and alert to actively train the mind, but it helps you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So having the sternum up and the shoulders back will help you to breathe easier and keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. So again, I'm going to do some chanting to ease us into meditation, which you're welcome to join along in, and then I'll be back with some guidance to help you in your meditation. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakeva Potang Mahakavanhang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato สาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะภะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวาปานุสนังโอโตภะคะวะติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled. Just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then when you're ready, just exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then, when you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath. Either the sound of the breath coming into the nose, or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมะขวาพุทธังมหาขวันนังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาขวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาขวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะขวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสคาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาธัมมาสติสัตตาตาวาปานุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to all of you guys that are here at Wat Hung Yu. Welcome to Wat Hung Yu. All of you online that are joining us, welcome to everyone. What I'm going to be doing is sharing with you guys the 3 poisons or the 3 unwholesome roots that are going to help you understand these 3 high-level problems that are in the unenlightened mind. But before I do, let me just share a few things with those of you guys that are new to the temple. That there's a few things here that'll help you to be more comfortable. Is that in the back of the room, there's a bathroom. At any time, if you'd like to use the restroom, you're welcome to use it. You can just get up and use the restroom. There's even restrooms outside the classroom. If you follow the signs around to the main temple bathrooms, you'll see those outside in the main temple complex. We even have water and snacks here that is provided by our students that you're welcome to help yourself to at any time. So make yourself comfortable. I'm going to be sharing some teachings with you. And as I go, if there's any questions that you guys have, you're welcome to ask any and all questions. Whether you're here at the temple or you're online, you can ask questions. For those of you guys that are here at the temple, if you would like to ask questions, I would like to just ask if you could use the microphones here in the white bowl. This way the students online will be able to hear your question. All you need to do is come get a microphone. You press the gray button on the front of it. The lights will come on. You just wait a second or so and you put it up to your chin and you'll be able to ask your question. We'll be able to hear you here at the temple and they'll be able to hear you online. You can even take this microphone with you back to your seat and then just keep it with you because you may have more than one question or someone around you might have a question and you could share the microphone with them. And for those of you guys that are online, if you would like to ask questions, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. I'll see that in the comment section. And then in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any questions you like by opening up your microphone, and we'll be able to hear you at the temple. We'll be able to hear you on the live stream as well. So once again, welcome to all of you guys. When you're learning the teachings of the Buddha, it's important to understand that nothing in his teachings is based in belief. His teachings aren't about believing a bunch of things and then hoping that something good happens when you die. Instead, what he did is he explained to you what's called the natural laws of existence, and he's helping you to cultivate wisdom about the natural world around you. Because when you're in a world that you don't understand, you will struggle and you will have difficulties. Because if you don't understand these natural laws, you're going to have difficulties navigating the world and making wise decisions that'll produce wholesome results for you. And you'll naturally make unwise decisions that are going to produce unwholesome results for you. But when you have wisdom, you'll be able to navigate the world through making wise decisions that produce wholesome results. The natural laws of existence that the Buddha taught are affecting you whether you're aware of it or not. And these natural laws are something that you can learn, you can understand, you can independently verify, and then you can practice to be able to see the results for yourself. That, like I mentioned, the teachings of the Buddha aren't about a bunch of beliefs and then hoping something good happens when you die. Instead, you're learning now in this life. You're reflecting on those teachings to independently verify them, and then you're practicing the teachings by integrating them into your life. And as you do, because you're learning, reflecting, and practicing now, you'll see that the condition of the mind is improving now. This enlightened mind that we talk about, that you can experience, is where the mind moves to the peace, the calmness, the serenity, the contentedness, and the joy. You no longer experience any discontent feelings. All the anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, even the slightest displeasure is eliminated from the enlightened mind. And the way you do that is by eliminating these three poisons, or these three unwholesome roots. These are the three high-level issues that the Buddha discovered about the mind, and then he provides you the tools and the techniques of how to uproot them out of the mind. And as you do so, you'll see the peace and the joy coming into the mind. And this can't happen through belief. With belief, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing something. And now your mind can easily be shaken up. But when you know the truth and you have wisdom, then you can navigate the world more readily without these pollutions in the mind. The same thing that needs to occur here in order to be able to get to enlightenment over gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress is the same things that we did when we were learning other natural laws. If you remember back to the time when you were a child, none of us understood the natural law of gravity, and we struggled, and we have difficulties with this natural law. We fell down, we hit our head, we busted open our elbows and our knees, we broke our toys, we broke other people's stuff, and because of this, we struggled and we had difficulties in the world. But slowly but surely, we awoke to the wisdom of the natural law of gravity, and as we did, we started making wiser decisions. We started tying our shoes tighter, we started looking at the surface of the sidewalk as we navigated the world, we started making all kinds of wise choices that were helpful for us and allowed us to navigate the world more readily. And now we have so much wisdom about this natural law of gravity, we can ride bicycles, we can climb ladders, we can get on airplanes and travel all over the world. This natural law isn't a rule or a commandment. It's not something that you believe in. It's something that you know with 100% certainty that it exists. And with that wisdom, you can now navigate the world more readily. And you naturally make wiser decisions that produce wholesome results. For example, I usually point out that this cup of water behind me, it goes back here behind me, right? That's where I choose to put it. Not because somebody told me to do that, or not because anybody's forcing or controlling me to do that, but because I know it's unwise to put it right here in front of me, because I have the wisdom of the natural law of gravity that if I put it here in front of me, it's easy to get tipped over, right? But if I put it behind me, knowing the natural law of gravity, it's less likely to get tipped over. And these are natural decisions that we make when we have wisdom. So when you lack wisdom of the natural laws of existence, you're going to naturally make certain unwise decisions, thinking that you're making all the wise decisions in the world, but you're experiencing certain unwholesome results in your life. You're experiencing anger and sadness and frustration and irritation and annoyance and all these other discontent feelings. And that's part of the results of having not trained the mind and not have the wisdom of training the mind. You'll continue to experience those feelings. But once you understand the natural laws, just like with the natural law of gravity, you make wiser decisions now. When you eliminate these pollutions out of the mind, using the tools and the techniques that the Buddha shared, then you'll be able to navigate the world more readily, making wiser decisions that produce wholesome results. So when I'm teaching you today about these three poisons, it's important you don't believe anything that I share with you. You won't experience any kind of improvement if you just believe what I'm sharing. So don't believe what I share. Don't believe what other people share. Don't believe what you see I write in books or any content that you digest from me. Don't believe it. But learn it, investigate it, examine it, reflect on it to independently verify whether it's true or false, and then practice it, integrating it into your life. So as I'm teaching you today, you'll be able to hear things that I'm sharing with you that are talking about your life and what you experience in your life. Even though I've never met you before, I can explain to you exactly what it is that you're experiencing because I understand your mind and I understand that your mind has these three poisons, so I can describe to you exactly what you experience in life. But you need to be able to independently verify that for yourself. So as I teach you, feel free to reflect on what it is that I'm sharing. And then where you're having challenges to understand, that's where you can ask questions and I'll give you some more clarity. So first, let's just kind of get familiar with these three poisons and kind of what they are. The three poisons or the three unwholesome roots or the three fires, these are also known as defilements or pollutions in the mind, referred to as taints. This is a high-level description of what's plaguing the mind and keeping it in the unenlightened state. It's keeping it to experience the anger and the sadness and the frustration over and over. If it wasn't for these three poisons, you wouldn't be experiencing the anger and the sadness and frustration and all those other discontent feelings. So this is a high-level description, but it's the 10 fetters, which is a more detailed description of what is plaguing the mind. The Buddha describes these 10 individual pollutions, and we refer to them as fetters because during ancient times, if you were a prisoner and they would like to keep you confined in a certain area, they would attach a fetter to your leg. What a fetter is a shackle and a chain and a ball, and it keeps a prisoner confined to a certain area. So that's why the Buddha referred to these 10 pollutions as the 10 fetters, because they're keeping the mind trapped in the unenlightened state. So these three poisons is kind of a higher level description of what's happening in the mind so that you can understand what's plaguing the mind. When you usually first get started on the path to enlightenment, you start learning what's called the three universal truths and the four noble truths. This gives you a little bit of a window into understanding what is the problem in the mind, the cause of the problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. And this was taught yesterday as part of this course. And I teach it all different times during the year and during the month, and it's been recorded, it's in books. So if you weren't here yesterday, you can surely learn that through the various recordings on our YouTube channel, podcast, Facebook group, our book, our audio book, all these different things. You could surely learn it in different courses and retreats that I teach. I teach that. So the Four Noble Truths is like the first window into the unenlightened mind that you start to understand. But then you go a deeper level into understanding the three poisons or the three unwholesome roots, which I'm going to share with you today. And even if you didn't learn the Four Noble Truths, you can still understand the three poisons or the three unwholesome roots or these three fires. But then you go deeper and you even start learning the 10 fetters, which I introduced students to on Monday. I kind of introduced it to them and helped them to understand them just a little bit. But as you get going on your path to enlightenment, you dive into the 10 fetters more and more deeply, because this describes the unenlightened mind in detail. And then the Buddha gives you the tools and techniques of how to eliminate those 10 fetters from the mind. And I'm going to be teaching a retreat this August where I'm going to be going into each individual fetter, spending about an hour, hour and a half on each individual fetter. So if the three unwholesome roots describes the three problems or the defilements in the mind, it's the three wholesome roots that describes the solutions or the antidotes. So not only am I going to describe the problems to you today, I'm going to describe the solutions to you to help you understand how to fix the mind as well. So that's referred to as the three wholesome roots. So now let me just talk about these three unwholesome roots from a high level, and then we're going to go into each one in detail. We call the three poisons or the three unwholesome roots or the three fires, they're referred to as craving, anger, and ignorance. You'll see other ways that they're referred to as well, like greed, hatred, and delusion, or even desire, ill will, and confusion. Some people refer to it that way. I tend to use the word craving, anger, and ignorance because I think it most accurately represents what it is that the Buddha was describing. What craving, desire, attachment, wants, and expectations is, this first pollution. It's where the mind has this longing, yearning, and chasing after the objects of its affection. It's where the mind thinks that the next new shiny object around the corner is going to provide some kind of lasting satisfaction. So the mind pulls towards a particular thing. having almost like an unquenchable thirst, wanting things to be permanent. And if the mind gets what it wants, you get happy or excited or elated or thrilled. You get pleasant feelings. But then when the mind doesn't get what it wants, because it's craving something and it doesn't get that thing, then you experience anger and sadness and frustration. Essentially, craving, desire, attachment is what's causing your mind to be discontent. In the unenlightened state, you will firmly believe that it's other people that are causing you to be angry and frustrated and irritated. But other people aren't causing you to be angry and agitated or annoyed or any of these other discontent feelings. What's causing it is within your own mind. It's craving, desire, attachment. It's longing, yearning. And if the mind gets what it wants, it gets pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But if you don't get what you want, you get painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, all these other discontent feelings. They're painful to experience. So there's an antidote and a remedy for this that we're going to talk about. But this is just kind of at a high level what the craving, desire, attachment is doing. It's the mind longing, yearning for things. Then when the mind's not getting what it wants, oftentimes this anger, this ill will, this hatred, this bitterness, this hostility, this aggression can arise. It's almost like an animal growling or roaring at people. Through your intentions, your speech, and your actions, you can become bitter and hostile and harsh. And this is where you might push people aside out of your life, thinking that that solves the problem. Or you might be bitter, harsh, and hostile with them, almost trying to fear them into doing things your way because you're trying to get those cravings fulfilled. Or you might put your expectations on people. You might try to control people and get people to do things your way. The mind thinks if I can just get people to do things my way, that'll fix your problem, the problem of the anger, but it doesn't fix the problem because the problem is the actual craving inside the mind. So as long as you're pushing people away out of anger and hostility, this doesn't work because when you push that person away, it doesn't solve the problem. You just keep getting angry and irritated again about something else. If this was the real cause of the problem, when you push people away out of your life, you would be peaceful, you would be joyful, but you're not. It's only a matter of time before you get agitated or annoyed about something else. If being bitter, harsh, and hostile with people solves your problem, then once again, you would do that one time and your mind would be peaceful. But it's not. When you're bitter, harsh, and hostile, it ends in broken relationships and has difficulties and struggles. And then when you put your expectations on people and try to control people, that doesn't work either because they feel pressured and they choose to leave out of your life. And you can't control 8 billion people to do things your way. So as long as the mind has craving, desire, attachment, longing, yearning, it'll keep doing this. As the anger will keep arising, you'll falsely attribute the problem to something external and you'll push people away. You'll be bitter, harsh, and hostile, or you'll put your expectations on people. And this is just because of the third poison or the third unwholesome root or this third fire, which is the ignorance or the unknowing of true reality. Ignorance is like a derogatory word, so I tend to not use this one, but this is what you'll see a lot of people using. The better way to think about it is the unknowing of true reality or the misunderstanding or misperception, the lack of wisdom, that the unenlightened mind just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. It doesn't realize that it's causing its own anger. The unenlightened mind firmly believes that other people are causing you to be angry. You've been in arguments before where you've adamantly argued with people and tried to convince them that they needed to stop doing what they were doing because it was making you angry. And the mind is like this, that it just lacks wisdom. And because it lacks wisdom to understand what the true problem is, you just stay stuck in this continuous cycle over and over and over again. It's only a matter of time before something triggers one of your cravings, desires, attachments, and you become irritated or annoyed or frustrated or feeling stress or anxiety or guilt or shame or fear or some other discontent feeling. So as long as these three poisons are in the mind of craving, anger, and ignorance, you'll continue to stay stuck in this continuous cycle of experiencing problems over and over and over again. But when you apply the antidotes, which the antidote to this ignorance or unknowing of true reality is to arise wisdom. When you start learning the truth and you can independently verify it and then you can practice it, you will see the truth for yourself, that the teachings of the Buddha are working to improve the condition of your mind. So that's why I started off today, and I start off many of my classes sharing, don't believe anything that I say. because belief isn't going to help you to get to wisdom. You need to be able to know with 100% certainty what is causing these problems in your mind, and then apply the tools and techniques so that as you're applying them and you're eradicating these pollutions in the mind, you start seeing the peace and the joy and the radiance and the brightness of the enlightened mind shining through. It's kind of like the enlightened mind is like the sun, and there's these clouds that are blocking it. And when you get those clouds out of the way, the brightness and the radiance of the sun can shine through. So even though we describe it as attaining enlightenment, you might think of it as the mind is already enlightened, but it's got these pollutions that are in the way. And when you start clearing out these pollutions, the rays of that enlightened mind can start shining through. The brightness and the radiance, the joy and the peace can shine through. But as long as that pollution is in there, it's like somebody's kicked up a bunch of dust and now the mind is choking. It's experiencing the anger and the frustration and the agitation and all these other discontent feelings. So it's through eradicating these three poisons or these three unwholesome roots or these three fires that is going to lead to the peace and the joy in the mind. But more specifically, it's the 10 fetters that need to be eradicated. So now I'm going to talk about each one of these in a bit more detail, and I'm going to describe the individual solutions for you. And then I'm going to open up at the end of each one of them to some questions and see if you guys have questions on each one of them, ensuring that you understand before we move on to the next one. So this craving, desire, attachment, this longing, yearning. If you've ever been in the mall and you saw like a new object and you were like, oh, new pair of shoes. Yes, 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 yes. That's what I need, a new pair of shoes. Oh, that's going to make everything better. Yes, I need that new pair of shoes so badly. And that's the longing, yearning. It's not the shoes itself. It's the mind longing, yearning for the shoes, or maybe a new computer or a new phone, or maybe some jewelry, or maybe it was a new boyfriend or girlfriend. That's what you need. A new boyfriend or girlfriend. That'll solve everything. Oh, I know what I need. More money. That's what it'll do. More money. That'll fix everything. Oh, a nicer house, a new car, a new job. The mind just chases and chases and chases and chases. It's like an unquenchable thirst. It's just a matter of time before the mind comes up with something that says, this is what I need, and it's going to make everything better. Maybe a trip to Thailand. That's what it'll be. Let me go to Thailand. Everything will be better when I go to Thailand, right? So now the mind longs and yearns, and you get so excited. We're going to Thailand. But then you show up to the airport and your flight's delayed or it's canceled. And now you're frustrated because the mind's not getting what it wants. That craving, that desire, that longing, that yearning, the mind wants things to be permanent. When in reality, everything around you is impermanent. It's temporary. So it's not possible for every single flight to be on time. It's just not possible. You can't ever experience 100% flights being on time. It will never happen in the world. But the mind craves it. And intellectually, you might understand what I just said. That, yeah, it's not possible for every flight to be on time. There's going to be a maintenance issue, a crew issue, a weather issue. There's going to be some problem at some point. It's just a matter of time, right? But if your mind shows up to the airport with a craving, a longing, a yearning, a desire, you're so excited. When you're not getting what you want, which is to get on that plane right away, now you're angry and you're sad and you're frustrated. This is the mind causing its own discontentedness. Or if you were in a relationship with a boyfriend or girlfriend, when you guys first got together, everything was perfect. Oh my goodness, it couldn't be better. You guys met, you connected, you started talking, you started having conversations with each other, you started going out to the movies and dinner, maybe you had great conversations, maybe you went to the park for a walk, maybe you even had intimate contact at some point. But then at some point, the relationship became highly discontent. You guys decided to separate. And now you're angry, you're frustrated. The mind's craving for this relationship to be permanent, when in reality, this relationship is impermanent. The mind thought all along that I could hold on to this relationship, and it's this relationship that's making me feel better, right? And when I'm with this person, I feel great. And when I'm away from this person, I feel bad. I feel miserable. I feel like I'm missing this person. It's not the love that's causing that. You might think that love is bad, right? If you've had painful feelings and you're associating those painful feelings to love, it's not the love that's causing those painful feelings. It's the craving, the desire, the attachment, the wanting this relationship to be permanent. And as long as you guys were together, you had a certain amount of happiness and excitement. But then when you guys separated, the mind wasn't getting its cravings fulfilled, and now it's angry or sad or frustrated. The same thing's happening when grandma and grandpa die, or mom or dad, or brothers and sisters. If you've had people close to you die, it's not your love that's causing you to grieve and feel sorrow. It's your craving for this person to be permanent, right? And you're not a bad person. You haven't done anything wrong. Everybody who's unenlightened, or everyone who's born, is unenlightened. You wouldn't be born if you weren't unenlightened. So everyone who's ever been born is unenlightened. But the mind lacks wisdom, so it's craving and it's holding on. It's longing, yearning, and wanting grandma and grandpa to be permanent. And as long as they're alive, you're happy. But as soon as they die, your mind's confronted with this impermanence that it doesn't understand. Its craving is not getting fulfilled. So it's not the love. Love is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, active goodwill for all beings. The same thing happens at a wedding. If you've been to a wedding, if you were grieving at a wedding or people around you were grieving, it's because you're confronted with this impermanence. Maybe brothers and sisters or cousins are going off in the world with another person, and you might feel sad, right? Because the mind's holding on and wanting this person to be permanent. Or say you were dropped off at university. Maybe you or your parents were crying and grieving when you were dropped off at your university, perhaps, right? This is the mind craving and holding on, wanting permanence. Or say you bought a brand new car or something else. When you first got that car, you were so excited, you were so happy. But then when you parked it at a store and you went inside and you came out and you saw a scratch on the car, you might have got frustrated. You might have got agitated or annoyed. It's not the scratch that's causing this. And it's not the person who scratched your car. That's not what's causing you to be frustrated. What's causing you to be frustrated is the mind's craving. It has this desire, this want for this car to be permanently beautiful. The mind's craving permanence, when in reality you live in an impermanent world. Now, it would be wonderful if nobody ever scratched our car. That'd be great, right? But that's not the world you live in. You live in a world that is impermanent. Now, of course, we aspire to not scratch people's car. When we walk through the parking lot, we try not to do that. When we have shopping carts, we try not to do that. But because of impermanence, it's only a matter of time before the wind gusts or a child bumps into the shopping cart, or something's going to happen where this car is going to get scratched. It's only a matter of time. The wheels are going to need to be changed. The window washers are going to need to be changed. The paint's going to fade. The upholstery is going to get ripped or torn, perhaps. This is all impermanence. But as long as your mind is craving permanence and wanting things to be a certain way, it will experience the discontent feelings when you're not getting what the mind wants. So this craving, desire, attachment, this unquenchable thirst, wanting things to be permanent, is what's causing these discontent feelings to arise. Any questions so far on what I'm sharing here? No questions? Okay, so the solution here is there's an entire path. It's called the Eightfold Path. The Buddha taught this in a lot of detail. And we taught this yesterday in this course. And it's been recorded. It's in books. You can easily learn this through all the different resources that I provide for you at no cost. But this Eightfold Path, it's 8 individual factors that are going to guide you to transforming the mind and eliminating craving, desire, attachment. But in terms of what's targeting craving, desire, attachment, it's called breathing mindfulness meditation, which is what we just did this morning. This is breathing mindfulness meditation. This is training your mind to let go. And then generosity as well. Because with craving, desire, attachment, your mind will hold on. It'll want permanence. It can't let go. When you see something you don't like, you just can't let it go. When you hear something or smell something or you taste something or something comes in contact with your body, or you have a certain thought that goes through your mind, you just can't let it go. The mind is holding on to it. So in that meditation where you're focused on the breath and your mind moves off the breath and you're training the mind to let go, this is really helpful for your mind. So if 20, 30, 50 times during that meditation this morning you had to let go, let go, let go, let go, this is really good because your mind doesn't want to let go. So the goal of this meditation isn't to eliminate your thoughts. Sometimes people think that's the goal. As long as you're alive, you're going to have thoughts. Even when you're enlightened, you're still going to have thoughts. You need those thoughts. Even in meditation, when you're enlightened, you're going to have thoughts. But the difference is that in the unenlightened state, you'll tend to be bombarded with thoughts, or you'll indulge in a thought. And then 2 minutes, 3 minutes down the road, you're like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm meditating. Let me bring my mind back to the breath, right? So if 20, 30, 50 times during your meditation, you had to let go, let go, let go, let go, and keep coming back to the breath. This is really good because in daily life, you'll now be able to train your mind slowly but surely to be able to let go. And this just takes time to accumulate the benefits of training the mind to let go. Because right now, it doesn't let go, that you hold on to something, wanting something to be a certain way, and you'll sit there in the waiting room of the airport utterly frustrated that your plane is delayed. And you'll keep looking at the screen constantly, trying to figure out, when is this plane leaving? When is this plane leaving? Come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. That's what the craving wants you to do. It wants to go, 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 go. Or you want mom and dad to be a certain way. Or when your bank account balance is here, you'll be happy. But then when it goes here, you'll be sad. Or when it's sunny outside, you'll be happy. But then when it's raining, you'll be sad or frustrated. This is the craving, desire, attachment, the longing, the yearning that the mind has. So the breathing mindfulness meditation is training the mind to let go. So even in the enlightened mental state, you'll have thoughts during meditation, but the difference is you'll have this long space between the thoughts. The mind will be quieted. It'll be stilled. So you'll have a thought, but in the enlightened mental state, you'll notice it right away. You'll cut it off and bring the mind right back to the breath. And then there'll be this long period of stillness and quietness in the mind. In the unenlightened state, it'll just be thought, 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 thought. Or you'll indulge in a thought, follow that for 2 or 3 minutes, and then bring your mind back. So accumulating more and more training of breathing mindfulness meditation on a consistent, ongoing basis, about 2 or 3 times a day is what you would like to build up to. It oftentimes takes 6 months, a year, even 2 years to build up to that, where you're meditating 2 or 3 times a day for 30 minutes or more. I know that might seem like a lot for you right now, but if you look at your life, there's probably certain things you're doing in your life that are unbeneficial. You might be spending an exorbitant amount of time on social media or doing other things. Not that these things are bad, right? You can do these things, but when you're doing them for an exorbitant amount of time, it's taking you away from things that would be otherwise beneficial for your life, like meditating and learning the teachings of the Buddha, coming to the temple, things like this. So you can gradually build up your meditation practice and gradually see the improvements to the condition of your mind. You would also need to gradually build up a practice of generosity. Generosity is where you're giving and sharing more than is strictly required in any given situation, such as your time, your effort, your energy, and your resources, without any expectation of anything in return. If you're offering a gift to somebody and you have an expectation, you're going to just set yourself up for discontentedness. It's only a matter of time because your expectations can't be met. And that is not pure generosity. When you're giving something to somebody with an expectation attached to it, you would like to be able to give and share your time, effort, energy, and resources without any expectation of anything in return. And this is training your mind to also let go. Because with craving, desire, attachment, the mind will become selfish. Right? You'll want things to be self-satisfying all the time. We were taught as children to give and share. We were taught to share our toys. We weren't necessarily taught why, but this is why. It's because it leads to peace. It leads to joy. But when you hold on to things and you're stingy or you're selfish, now the mind's holding on to your money, your time, your material possessions, maybe your boyfriend or girlfriend, mine, 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 mine. My computer, my phone, my clothes, my jewelry, and the mind holds on to it. But if you live open-handedly and you're frequently giving and sharing daily, that you're practicing giving and sharing, even just holding the door when you're walking into a store and you just hold the door for somebody, because you're walking in yourself, you might as well hold it for somebody else, right? This is practicing generosity. It only takes you 3 seconds or 5 seconds, but you got to be careful. You can't have any expectation of anything in return. Even if you're standing there with an expectation that someone will say thank you, if they don't say thank you, you'll get agitated. You'll get annoyed because you're standing there holding the door, waiting for them to say thank you. And then they just walk through and they don't say thank you. You'll be irritated. You'll be annoyed, right? So getting rid of your expectation and realizing the reason why you're practicing generosity is to enhance the quality of your own mind. That's the only reason. Right? Sure, it's a wise decision. It helps other people. Great. But without any expectation. You shouldn't have any expectation from the other person of what you should get back for this act of generosity. Pure generosity is without any expectation of anything in return. So these are the two techniques and the two practices that are going to ultimately train your mind to let go. This integrates into that core teaching of the Eightfold Path. You would need to know the whole Eightfold Path. You wouldn't be able to just do breathing mindfulness meditation and generosity in order to eliminate your craving, desire, attachment, but this is the real target. This is like the real target, the kind of surgical knife that's going in and kind of helping you to generally eliminate these cravings, desires, attachments. So any questions on any of this, either here at the temple or anybody online? Yes, ma'am. It's not work. You have to turn it on, and you're welcome to take it back to your seat if you like.
You talk about being enlightened and not enlightened as like kind of dichotomous, like you're either one or the other. But do you think it's possible to like continue gaining even more enlightenment, even if you're already at like a enlightened state, or even when you're not enlightened, still work towards becoming enlightened? So maybe is it possible to think about it less as one or the other and more as something you're continually working towards, or is it different?
Yeah, so there's 4 distinct stages of enlightenment that the mind goes through, and you'll be able to see those 4 distinct stages. The 4th stage of enlightenment is where the mind is actually enlightened. So when I describe this is what you'll experience in the unenlightened state, I'm explaining what you're experiencing prior to getting to that 4th stage of enlightenment. This is what you will experience. And this is to help you understand what the true teachings are, and that you can see and independently verify that this is what an enlightened being experiences. Because the more you understand what enlightenment is, then you'll be able to more readily navigate your way to it. But in the process of getting to enlightenment, there's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress where your mind is becoming more enlightened as you're making your way to the 4th stage of enlightenment, but the mind is not yet enlightened at that point. And then once you get to enlightenment, in the 4th stage of enlightenment, there's continuous growth from that point forward. I teach students to never convince themselves that they are enlightened, even when you know your mind is enlightened, because it'll be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years that you haven't experienced any discontent feelings whatsoever, and you'll know that your mind is enlightened. But I teach people to don't even convince themselves that they are enlightened, because there's continuous growth that you continue to grow wisdom and development. Because in order to get to enlightenment, you would have needed a multiple year pursuit in order to train your mind to get to that mental state. And you're not going to just stop cultivating wisdom once you get to that enlightened mental state. You'll continue to grow and develop as an individual and as a human being. But by that point, your mind's performing optimally. You're no longer experiencing any, difficulties with discontentedness, or your mind is now focused and concentrated and clear. You have deep memory. You'll be able to continue to grow in your life from that point forward. But being distinct about this is what unenlightened mind experiences versus this is what an enlightened mind experiences, you'll be able to see the difference, so that now you can navigate your way to that enlightenment and gradually getting closer and closer to it. If I didn't help you to see that, you wouldn't know the difference between an unenlightened mind and an enlightened mind, and you wouldn't be able to navigate your way to it. Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions? Let me see if we have anything online here. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions anywhere. So let me move to this next one, which is referred to as anger, hatred, or ill will. This is what's going to arise when the mind's not getting its cravings fulfilled. When the mind's getting its cravings fulfilled, it's going to get pleasant feelings, those temporary conditional feelings of happiness, excitement, elation, right? And as long as you're chasing after your cravings, desires, attachments, and you get those fulfilled, you'll have these pleasant feelings. The happiness, excitement, elation, it'll arise, it'll change, and it'll fade away. This is why you haven't been able to get to permanent happiness yet, because your mind's basing its inner feelings on some condition that if my bank account's here, I'll be happy. But then when your bank account does this, you get sad or frustrated. That's a conditional feeling. So those conditional pleasant feelings are ultimately dissatisfying because they ultimately lead to the painful feelings of anger, sadness, frustration, and others. So as long as the mind is basing its inner feelings on some condition, it'll continue to experience the painful feelings. And one of those feelings that are arising is this anger, this sadness, this frustration, this agitation, this annoyance. These are all lesser versions of this same poison, where the mind can oftentimes become bitter and hostile and harsh and aggressive towards other beings. And when this is arising, then this is where the unskillfulness comes in. Your intentions, your speech, your actions towards other people become bitter, harsh, and hostile. And now you damage your relationships. And as you're being unskillful in your relationships and you're damaging these relationships, now when you're bitter, harsh, and hostile to others, they tend to be that way with you too. And then you're like, why are they always so bitter and hostile? Why are they always trying to argue with me? Well, that's what you're putting out. So that's what's coming back to you. This is the natural law of karma, of cause and effect, or action and result. We're going to talk about this tomorrow morning in detail. So this anger, what it's going to do is as you feel those painful feelings, you'll either push people away out of your life and be bitter, harsh, and hostile and kind of pushing them away, or you'll be bitter, harsh, and hostile through your intention, speech, and actions, or you'll put your expectations on people and try to control people. What the unenlightened mind is thinking here is that if I can just get my cravings fulfilled, if I can get my wants and my longing, my yearning fulfilled, then everything will be perfect. So this is why the mind kind of pushes this situation away or pushes this person away. But you can see that it doesn't solve the problem because it's only a matter of time before you become frustrated or agitated again about something else. It's only a matter of time. Or if you're bitter, harsh, and hostile towards people, being unskillful in your intentions, speech, and actions, that's like an animal growling or roaring at another animal, like showing its teeth, right? A lion, if another lion comes around its food, because the lion's holding on to the food and wanting it to be mine, because the mind's selfish, it'll growl and roar at another lion, trying to fear it to go away. Right? And this is the same thing that the human mind does in the unenlightened state, is that it will growl and roar at another human being. Through your intentions, your speech, and your actions, you kind of show your teeth, right? And you try to fear this other human into doing things your way. But this doesn't work. It doesn't promote harmonious relationships. That person will only do those things as long as they're fearful of you. And then as soon as your back is turned, they're not going to do things your way. And then there's 8 billion people in the world. You can't fear 8 billion people into doing things your way. And even if they did things your way, sometimes they would do things your way, sometimes they wouldn't. And you would be angry or frustrated, irritated over and over and over again. Or the third thing that you might do is put your expectations on people and try to control them or put pressure on them to do things your way. In all these situations, the mind is trying to get its cravings fulfilled because it thinks that if I can just get my cravings, desires, attachments fulfilled, if these other people will do things my way, then the world would be perfect. But you can't get the whole world to do things your way. You can't get your cravings fulfilled permanently. It's just not possible. So that's why this anger is arising, is because the mind's not getting what it wants. Its cravings and desires aren't being fulfilled. So you can transform this anger and hostility. You can use loving kindness meditation and practice loving kindness through your intentions, your speech, and your actions, and you can be more loving and kind. What loving kindness is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, where you have active goodwill towards others. And there's a meditation that essentially rewires your mind and helps you train your mind and helps it to be loving and kind. And now when you go out into the world, you can be more loving and kind in your relationships. You know, I grew up with a lot of hostility and aggression and resentment towards my mom for things that happened in my childhood. And even in my early adulthood, I was very resentful and hostile and bitter towards my mom. When her and I would get together, it was only a matter of time before things would explode. And I kept wanting her to change because I felt like she had done all these bad things to me when I was a child, right? But what I had to do in order to transform this relationship is I had to change my own mind first. I had it wrong at first. I was trying to change mom, where in reality, I realized I needed to change my own mind. So that's what I did. I worked with loving kindness meditation. I trained my mind. I retrained my mind. And then when I was around mom, I could be loving and kind. I could be gentle. I could be warm and caring. And now as I started doing that, mom could see that she was the one who was being bitter and harsh and hostile. And then she gradually transformed too. Where in the past, mom might have picked up a rubber ball, throw the anger and the hostility around the room, and I would pick it up and throw it around the room, and she would pick it up and throw it around the room. And next thing you know, we're both arguing. We have all this bitterness and hostility in the room, and it was uncomfortable for everybody. But then I started changing. With this loving kindness meditation, I essentially rewired the mind where I could be loving and kind, so that when mom picked up the rubber ball of anger and threw it around the room, I would just watch it roll to the corner, and it would lose its energy. And I didn't argue back. So therefore, she stopped arguing. Slowly but surely, she realized, hey, he's not arguing with me anymore. So she stopped arguing. There would be times on the phone where she would be bitter, harsh, and hostile. Where in the past, I would be bitter, harsh, and hostile back with her. I changed. I did something different. And I started experiencing different results. I would say, Mom, I'm going to get off the phone now. It sounds like things are going in a direction I'd rather them not go. And I value our relationship too much. And I would like to see us get to peace and joy in our relationship. So I'm going to get off the phone and I'm going to let you think about what it is that you just said. And we'll talk another time. I love you, Mom. Bye-bye. Right? We would get off the phone. Where it might be 3 months or 6 months before I called her again. Right? Give her time to think about what it is that she said. Where in the past, I would just argue back and forth and we would slam the phone down. We'd be upset with each other, right? All kinds of problems. Where when you train your mind to be loving and kind, you can learn how to be loving and kind. And this is going to take gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. Essentially, what the mind does with its cravings, desires, attachments in place is it thinks that anger and the frustration that you have in your mind, it thinks it's coming from the other person. So what you'll do is you'll go down this path of anger, this well-worn path of anger. It's like you got the bushes pushed back, the grass is pushed back. You know where this path goes. And it's really easy for you to go down that path. That now when somebody does something that you find to be disagreeable, you just rush down this path. You know where it leads. It leads to broken relationships. It leads to heartache and misery because you're angry, the other person's angry, and you guys end up dissolving your relationship, right? But now what you do with this loving kindness meditation is you rewire the mind. It's like getting out your machete and you're cutting through and you're forging this new path. And now when somebody's bitter, harsh, and hostile with you and angry, you understand that if your mind's becoming angry, it's not from the other person. The other person isn't causing your anger. It's your own mind craving for that other person to be a certain way. I wanted my mom to be a certain way, and she wasn't that way. So I would get angry, right? But my mom wasn't that way. That's not the way she was. So when I got rid of my craving and stopped wanting mom to be a certain way, and I started being loving and kind, when mom was bitter, harsh, and hostile, I didn't go down this path of anger. I went down this new path. And it was hard. It was challenging. I had to get my machete out and cut through all these bushes. But eventually I made this really nice path that now whenever somebody would be bitter, harsh, and hostile, I would just go down this path of loving kindness. This old path overgrew. The bushes and the branches and the trees all grew back. So the mind wouldn't even go down that anymore. By the time you get to enlightenment, your mind, it's physically impossible to become angry. It's not possible. No matter what somebody does, you can't get angry. It's physically impossible to become frustrated or agitated or annoyed because you've forged this new path. The mind's been rewired. It no longer goes down this path of anger. So it's loving kindness meditation, which I teach in various courses and programs that'll teach you how to rewire your mind. And then you use right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood from the Eightfold Path, for those of you guys that have learned that with me, or maybe you learned it yesterday, where you now practice based on the natural laws, how to have right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood. If you haven't learned this yet, this is why you can think you have all the best intentions in the world. You can think you're speaking in all the best ways in the world. And when you put that out, it blows up on you. And you don't understand why. And you're like, what? I was being so kind and so loving. Why are they doing this? Why are they acting like this? And you'll think that the problem is the other person. But this is your ego in the mind thinking that what you're doing is so wonderful and so right, where other people are the problem. But this is what the mind does in the unenlightened state. When you understand that it's your mind that's causing these painful feelings, and it's your mind that doesn't have the wisdom of these natural laws, that even though you thought you had the best intentions, even though you thought you were speaking in the very best way, you haven't studied the natural laws to understand how to do that in a wise way that'll produce wholesome results for you. So the way to transform this hostility and bitterness and frustration and agitation is with loving kindness meditation and practicing loving kindness in daily life. Not only will it help you to eliminate anger and hostility towards others, but you might even have negative self-talk within your own mind. This is a very common thing, that you have a degrading, diminishing inner dialogue. If you have this is normal in the unenlightened state, but you can transform this, because when you learn how to cultivate loving kindness for others, this meditation actually starts with you cultivating loving kindness for this being, who you are. Because if you can't love this being, who you are, it would be very challenging for you to love other beings. So this meditation not only helps you to learn how to love other beings, but it helps you to learn how to love this being, who you are too. So you don't have that negative, degrading self-talk in your mind that's constantly going on, because this isn't helpful for you either. So you can transform your own mind so you don't have that towards yourself, and you don't have that towards others as well. And it's this meditation and other teachings that are going to help you learn how to transform your mind with loving kindness meditation, and then go out into the world and be more loving and kind to yourself and to others as well. So any questions on this? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. Okay, so now the whole reason why all of this is actually occurring is because of this third poison: the ignorance, the unknowing of true reality, the misperception, the misunderstanding, the lack of wisdom of true reality, that there's certain unknowing of true reality that the mind has. It just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. And this is where you can understand that the teachings of the Buddha aren't trying to guilt, shame, or fear you into anything. It's not saying you're a bad person or anything like that. He's just helping you to see true reality of what's really happening is the mind just lacks wisdom. It just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. And because of that lack of wisdom, it stays stuck in this continuous cycle. As I mentioned, that the unenlightened mind firmly believes that it's other people that are causing you to be angry. We firmly believe that. We've all been in arguments where we've been advocating for the other person to change because they were doing something that was causing you to be angry or frustrated. But when you learn the Four Noble Truths, you can clearly see and independently verify that it's your own mind that's causing these discontent feelings. It's the pollutions. It's these pollutions. But with a lack of wisdom, which is what this ignorance or unknowing of true reality is, you'll continue to believe that other people are causing you to be angry. And then you'll continue to push people away, or you'll push a situation away. You'll be bitter, harsh, and hostile towards people, damaging your relationships, and that stuff just comes back to you. Or you'll put your expectations on people and keep trying to control others, and they'll feel pressured and they'll choose to leave out of your life. But when you transform your mind by acquiring wisdom, when you learn the three universal truths, the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the 5 precepts, meditation training, and all the other things that you need, like the natural law of karma, and when you start learning these things, and then you reflect on them to independently verify them, and then you practice them, having arisen this wisdom in your mind, you will now be able to practice through the elimination of craving, and the elimination of anger. Having eliminated that ignorance, now you'll experience the more peace and joy. So while we refer to it as craving, anger, and ignorance, or this unknowing of true reality, it's really because of this ignorance, because of this unknowing of true reality, because of this lack of wisdom, that craving and anger continues to exist. Was it not for this lack of wisdom, craving and anger wouldn't still exist in the mind. So when you arise wisdom through learning, reflecting, and practicing the teachings, now you can implement the tools and techniques to eradicate and eliminate craving and anger. And that's where you see the real solution. Because you haven't understood the actual problem and the cause of that problem in the mind keeps experiencing these problems over and over. But when you arise wisdom of what the real problem is and you apply the real solutions, this is where you can get to a real result and a real solution, a real remedy. And this is where you can see the truth for yourself that the teachings of the Buddha are working. So it's not about learning, or it's not about believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. It's about learning in this life. And as you learn in this life and you develop your understanding of these teachings, independently verifying them to get the wisdom, and you integrate them into your life, that you see the real peace and joy starting to shine through because you've cleared out these clouds and the sun can shine through. But as long as you don't even know that there's clouds there, and you don't know the tools and techniques to get the clouds out of the mind, then you're going to just keep experiencing the same struggles over and over. So the Buddha is bringing to your attention of what are the clouds. Here's some clouds that are in your mind. Here's the pollution that's in your mind. And here's the tools and techniques to get rid of it. And then as you do that, you'll see, wow, it works. It 100% works. So this is the unknowing of true reality, or the lack of wisdom. So just to kind of summarize what we talked about, and then I'll open up to anything you guys would like to discuss, is we described the 3 poisons, the 3 unwholesome roots, or the 3 fires. This is the high-level description of what's going on in the mind, and what's plaguing the mind and keeping it in the unenlightened state. It's referred to as craving, anger, and ignorance, or the unknowing of true reality is a better way to think about it, because the word ignorance is kind of like a derogatory, degrading way, and a Buddha doesn't refer to people that way. So it's more like the unknowing of true reality, or the lack of wisdom. We also refer to it as greed, hatred, and delusion. You'll hear some people refer to it as that, or desire, ill will, and confusion. And then there's antidotes to this, or there's these remedies or solutions to fix it. And we refer to these as the 3 wholesome roots. The 3 wholesome roots are generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom. When you're making decisions through craving, anger, and ignorance, it's going to result in unwholesome results coming back to you. When you make decisions based in selfishness, when you make decisions based in anger, when you make decisions based in a lack of wisdom, it's going to produce unwholesome results in your life, because you're making unwise decisions that produces unwholesome results. But when you make decisions through generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom, now it's going to produce wholesome results. It's not possible for unwholesome results to be obtained through generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom. When you're practicing generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom, it will produce wholesome results in your life. Or we refer to it as wholesome karma, or some people refer to it as karma, right? So here, eradicating these 3 unwholesome roots and arising the 3 wholesome roots is what will transform the mind. Because everything you experience in life is coming through your mind. All the decisions that you make, anything you experience in life, it's all being processed through the mind. So when you clean up the mind, you'll clean up what you experience. You'll notice the peace and the joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you'll have focus, concentration, clarity, deep memory. Your personal and professional relationships will be at ease. You're not even in a bad mood anymore by the time you get to enlightenment, because all the causes and conditions that are producing a bad mood have been uprooted and eliminated out of the mind. And that's why I say it's physically impossible for an enlightened being to get angry, because all these pollutions have been eradicated. These are the causes and conditions that are producing that unpleasantness that the mind experiences, the displeasure. But when you eradicate these causes and conditions, there's no ability for the mind to become shaken up anymore. It'll be stable and steady. It's not possible for the mind to be shaken up. So any questions you guys have on anything that I've been describing so far, anything we've been discussing, whether it's this or anything else, you guys are welcome to ask any and all questions. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. So it's basically about 10:30. So I'm going to take a break here for you guys to be able to stretch your legs, to use the restroom. I know some of you guys might be leaving. You might not have planned to even be here this long. You might have just stayed a little bit for meditation and some other things. If you'd like to come back and learn some more, I'm going to start back up at 10:50, which will be 20 minutes from now. And what I'm going to share is the 5 precepts. If you've learned that the Buddha taught no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, or no intoxicants, you haven't learned the original words of the Buddha on these teachings. The Buddha didn't teach that way. He didn't teach black and white. He didn't teach rules and commandments. He used much more illuminating language than that. So I'm going to share with you the original words of the Buddha on these 5 precepts and show you how to apply it to day-to-day life, so that way, when you're learning the teachings of the Buddha through his own words, and then you're seeing how to apply it in day-to-day life, you'll be able to make wise decisions that produces wholesome results. And then this afternoon after lunch, kind of around 2 o'clock, I'm going to be teaching walking meditation. So perhaps I'll see you guys in a future class, or maybe the tour on Friday or something like that. Have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.